We would like to thank Secretariat for this detailed report, and I would like to highlight some points in this regard. We once more emphasize the importance of two global priorities of UNESCO, namely support to Africa and gender equality, and the attention given to the youth and the small islands developing states. We also commend the Secretariat for success in implementation of the performing indicators, but we have some reflections that I would like to point out. First, when it comes to the capacity building, of course, we emphasize the importance of the capacity building activities in each session of the World Heritage, and we will present maybe more detailed view on this issue during the consideration of item 6. But here I would like just to point out several components that we deem it important, that the capacity building should focus rather on preservation and conservation issues. And with this, in order to attain the sustainability, this training of trainees approach should be further developed and introduced. We have a question regarding the selection of the countries, and this question I would like to pose to the Secretariat, based on which criteria some pilot countries were chosen by the Secretariat in certain regions. Then I would like to focus on sustainable development, the performance indicator 4. When we speak about the sustainable development, of course, relation to the communities and the involvement of communities is of matter of importance, and we commend and encourage the Secretariat to continue its work of involving communities into this task. And here I would like to make reference and emphasis to the synergies between other conventions, and 2003 convention, of course, fits to this idea, as this convention deals with the sort of income generation activities which are contributing to the sustainable development. Later, I would like to also, when we speak about the synergies, I want to commend the activities of the Secretariat, but I would also encourage more activities to be done with the 54 Convention, the Hague Convention, which deals with the protection of the heritage, the property in the event of armed conflict. There are several instruments and mechanisms which can be very useful for the 72 Convention, namely enhanced protection, and we would hope that Secretariat will further explore the possibilities of making more synergies with this 54 Convention. Of course, the geoparks and biodiversity also is very important. There is an untapped potential which also needs to be explored by the Secretariat, especially on approach to the sustainable development and involvement of communities as well. We have taken note with appreciation also the implementation of the World Heritage thematic programs and initiatives, as well as the introduction of the well-structured approach to evaluate the work in this area. When it comes to the programs itself, this World Heritage Cities programs is very important in terms of paying attention to the historic urban landscape. And in this regard, I would like to mention that World City of Baku is hosting in this October, on 23rd and 24th of October, a board of directors of the Organization of World Heritage Cities, which will be another additional platform to discuss the management and development of historic urban landscape. Also, specific attention should be given to the world tourism World Heritage Sustainable Tourism Program and the collaboration with the UN World Tourism Organization. And here I would like to emphasize the work on the Silk Road. Azerbaijan, as an active part on the Silk Road, pays a particular attention to the development of this program within UNESCO, and we are supporting this online platform within UNESCO. And last but not least, I would like to also to point out the thematic studies on the recognition of associative values using World Heritage Criterion 6 and on interpretation of sites memory. We believe that these are, and we understand that these are recommendations, but we still we still encourage state parties concerned to engage in dialogue in order to find solutions to certain standing issues. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now I give the floor to the representative of Hungary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Hungarian delegation wishes to commend Dr. Lesser and the Secretariat for preparing this very comprehensive report and for its formidable and professional work despite the serious budget constraints. And when talking about money, one has to know that the financial situation continues to be of utmost concern, but all the while we should not forget that World Heritage is the flagship program of the UNESCO. We are very alarmed by the fact that 26 positions are now being financed through extra budgetary or in-kind resources at the World Heritage Center. And we should also take into account that there are only 28 positions established through the regular program. Hungary wishes also to draw the attention to the fact that although a staggering almost 50% of the sites inscribed on the World Heritage List are from Europe and North America, the regional unit is comprised only a few people. This means that a small team of very dedicated professionals is responsible for more than 500 sites, a very heavy burden. In our view, the imbalance of human resource distribution and mismatch of workload needs to be acknowledged. We understand that this is easier said than do something about it, but the attention of the state parties need to be drawn to this serious issue. It is noted in the report that as part of the awareness-raising activities of the Centre, the Hungarian government has contributed financially to the development of heritage passports for African state parties, Burkina Faso, Cameroon, and Ghana. Hungary is very keen on supporting other initiatives and programs of this kind to show that to demonstrate that even small donors can contribute to projects that make big impact on the ground. We urge other state parties to contribute towards the implementation of the Convention and towards the implementation of the Committee's decisions, no matter how much they might be able to give. Once again, we take note of the excellent report prepared by the Secretariat on its activities, and especially the thematic program. Hungary would like to have more information on the resources dedicated to the implementation of the thematic programs with special respect to the World Heritage Cities program. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And now I give the floor to the representative of Brazil.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Allow me first of all to express to you, Sheikh Ahaya, and to the government of Bahrain, our most sincere gratitude for your warm hospitality. And at the same time, I would like to congratulate you for the excellent organization of this 42nd meeting of the World Heritage Committee. In this morning's session, we paid close attention to the presentations of the report of the ad hoc working group and of the activities of the World Heritage Center. And in this sense, I would like to thank you, Sheikh Ahaya, for your direct and competent involvement on the review of the upstream process definition. Thank you very much. I would like very much also to congratulate the director of the World Heritage Center for her report, which reflects her leadership and the dedication of her competent team devoted to the noble cause of protecting and conserving our world heritage in a perspective of sustainable development. At this point, I would like to remark that the Brazilian delegation shares the comments made by the distinguished delegate of Azerbaijan when it comes to sustainable development, and we do hope that we can later on in the debates come back to this very important topic, which would also affect some sites that we have already on the list. But despite all the efforts that we have made so far, when reading the report of the ad hoc working group, I was very impressed with the observation stating that little has changed in terms of regional distribution of World Heritage sites and in the relation to the preponderance of cultural sites over natural and mixed sites. And I was very pleased that the Young Professionals Forum highlighted this morning the willingness of the younger generations to see more natural sites in the list, and I hope we can work in that direction. The challenges we have ahead of us ratifies the importance of the ad hoc working group in support of the World Heritage Center and ultimately to the benefit of heritage sites of state parties. Brazil commends all the efforts aiming at addressing capacity building and is ready to contribute to enlarge its cooperation in this area, especially through Category 2 centers. And I should come back to this topic later on in our discussions. Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson.
Thank you very much. And now I give the floor to the representative of Australia.
Thank you, Chair, and may I firstly just say that we most strongly endorse your wise opening comments this morning about just the criticality of upholding the integrity of the World Heritage Convention, and we thank you for those remarks, and I hope they guide us well during this meeting. I wish to thank Mrs Rossler, the Centre staff and their partners for the extraordinary work that you do with limited resources. Just imagine what could be achieved with a more substantial budget focused on conservation of the outstanding universal of the places that we are collectively charged with protecting. Australia is pleased to have been elected again to the World Heritage Committee, and we look forward to fulfilling our mandate focused on the 5 Cs of the Convention, so let's mention them for the first time today: conservation, community, capacity building, communication, and very importantly, the credibility of the World Heritage List. You will have heard us speak before as Australia that we see a 6th C being added to the 5 Cs, and that 6th C is climate change, and we look forward to working with the committee, states parties, the advisory bodies and civil society on this issue that is so fundamental to the integrity of our World Heritage places. These are challenging times for the World Heritage system as it grapples with challenges on so many fronts. We're all too familiar with the serious financial constraints on the World Heritage system, and as the list grows and scarce resources flow less and less to conservation. We must remedy this problem. A pathway has been laid under the leadership first of the Philippines and more recently Bahrain and Azerbaijan through the ad hoc working group, but now we have to walk the path that's been laid. All states parties have a duty to provide the resources needed to support a functional and effective system. We must all reach deeper into our pockets. If we don't, who else will? There are more insidious problems to tackle too. The increasing trend of the committee setting aside the sound technical advice of the advisory bodies on nominations and state of conservation matters is undermining the credibility of the Convention. And as custodians of the Convention, the committee can and must do better. During our term on the committee, Australia will be an advocate for upholding the technical integrity of the committee We will place great weight on the analysis and advice of the advisory bodies. We will be consistent in our approach and transparent in our appraisal of individual property dossiers. And I'll be clear now that we will not support inscription of places on the World Heritage List where the advice before us is that they should not be inscribed. The World Heritage List is not a beauty contest, and it should not be a place where states parties compete for numerical supremacy. To do so is contrary to the spirit and intent of the global strategy for a representative, balanced and credible World Heritage List. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now I give the floor to the representative of Cuba.
Gracias, señora presidenta. Agradecemos a la Secretaría por el informe que nos ha presentado y a nombre de nuestra delegación deseamos reconocer el trabajo que en condiciones complejas desarrolla el Centro de Patrimonio Mundial en un contexto de crisis financiera y de impago que vive la UNESCO y que tiene sin duda un impacto significativo en el trabajo del Comité y de esta convención. Todo ello en un contexto de crisis donde aspectos fundamentales como el cambio climático, las situaciones de emergencia, los conflictos y la destrucción deliberada del patrimonio ponen en riesgo cada vez la conservación y el rescate del mismo y a su vez define un nuevo reto para el trabajo de este comité. En la medida en que seamos capaces de hacer frente a esos retos globales que vive hoy el mundo, la convención será más creíble y tendrá que evolucionar. Y me ha gustado mucho 4 elementos que señalaban los jóvenes hoy en su declaración, y es la necesidad de hacer frente a las razones relativas al cambio climático, a la falta de representación en la lista, al trabajo con las comunidades, ya la necesidad de desarrollar nuevos conceptos y trabajar en nuevos conceptos mucho más dinámicos. En eso también está la credibilidad de esta convención y de este comité, no exclusivamente en la lista que tan polémica y esperada resulta para todos los estados. Queríamos hacer también especial referencia a la necesidad de continuar trabajando, como se ha hecho hasta ahora, en el fortalecimiento de capacidades, en continuar trabajando en la implementación en el Plan de Acción para América Latina y el Caribe, que nos permitirá llegar en mejores condiciones al tercer ciclo de informes periódicos. También a toda la estrategia desarrollada para los sitios de memoria histórica, fundamentalmente nos interesa con especial atención a aquellos que están asociados a la ruta del esclavo, y es ahí la importancia de ir conectando esta convención con otros programas de la organización. Y por último, y no menos importante, hacer referencia a la necesidad del diálogo entre los Estados miembros del comité y los órganos de evaluación, que pareciera es uno de los temas fundamentales que mayor contradicciones genera en el trabajo del comité. Si no hay diálogo, no será posible la conservación y la preservación, porque tendremos una incomunicación, como ha pasado ya en otros comités de esta misma organización, y por ello abogamos y exhortamos a que la Secretaría pueda desarrollar un papel fundamental en ese diálogo necesario e imprescindible para la protección del patrimonio en un contexto de crisis, de guerras y de compleja situación financiera. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. And now I give the floor to the representative of Tunisia.
شكرا سيدتي الرئيسة. أود قبل كل شيء أن أتوجه لك شيخة هايا بن راشد آل خليفة مهنئا بانتخابك رئيسة لهذا المؤتمر وبانتخاب البحرين الشقيق رئيسا للجنة التراث العالمي. وأود بالخصوص أن أثمن حسن تنظيمكم وكرم ضيافتكم. أود أن أتوجه كذلك إلى رئيسة مركز التراث العالمي شاكرا لها ولجميع الفريق الذي يعمل معها على هذا التقرير الضافي الذي قدم عن أعمال هذا المركز، والذي نستشف منه بصفة واضحة المنهجية السليمة المنتهجة في التعاطي مع هذه الملفات والموفقة في جانب كبير من أهدافها. بالنسبة لتونس، المسائل المتعلقة بتكوين الشباب والمتعلقة بإعطاء الكفاءة للجانب النسوي من مجتمعاتنا، وكذلك إعطاء القدرات المادية والتقنية في التعامل مع حماية التراث، وكذلك الدفع على اعتبار التراث عنصر لا فقط ثقافي بل اجتماعي اندماجي وسياسي إلى أبعد حد. تونس الذي تنتصف اليوم عضويتها زمنيا بما أننا نبدأ السنة الثالثة من عضويتنا، تؤكد على التزامها بما جاء في معاهدة 72 لا فقط نصا ولكن كذلك روحا وأهدافا. ونود من خلال ذلك أن نسطر على أهمية أن نصل خلافا لبعض السنوات السابقة إلى مناخ يجعلنا نتعامل مع هذه الملفات على أهميتها في كنف من التوافق واحتراما للآخر وفهم ذكي ومتطور لعناصر ومكونات معاهدة سنة 72. ونرى فيما وقع في خلال أعمال المجلس التنفيذي الأخير لشهر أفريل الفارط ربما مؤشرات إيجابية على أن تعم هذه الروح أعمال مؤتمرنا هذا. تونس تؤكد على ضرورة الوصول إلى تناول متوازن بين أهمية دور الهياكل الاستشارية التي نحتكم إليها لتقدم لنا الرأي السديد والرأي التقني والعلمي، وكذلك أن نجد التوازن من ناحية أخرى مع إرادة الدول التي هي الأساس وهي التي أمضت المعاهدات، وأن الدول التي يقع اصطفاؤها لعضوية هذه اللجنة يجب أن تكون متحلية بروح المسؤولية الكافية على ضمان احترام هذه المعاهدة بكل بنودها، وأؤكد لا فقط نصها بل روحها كذلك. فنثمن ما جاء في تقرير السيدة رئيسة مركز التراث العالمي ونتمنى لأعمالنا كل النجاح، وشكرا.
أشكر مندوب تونس على هالكلمة، والآن أعطي الكلمة إلى I give the floor now to the representative of Guatemala.
Señora Presidente, antes que nada quisiera felicitarla por la elección y también agradecer a los organizadores de esta reunión del comité que ha sido, que destaca por la hospitalidad que han dado a todos los participantes. Asimismo, deseo unirme a las felicitaciones que muchas otras delegaciones han expresado para el Centro de Patrimonio Mundial por los logros alcanzados durante el último año, en especial por su capacidad para adaptarse a las circunstancias financieras adversas. Sin dejar de lado todos los logros presentados, me enfocaré en el papel de los centros de categoría 2 como un medio para fortalecer el cumplimiento de los objetivos de la Convención. Quiero hacer especial énfasis en el Instituto Regional para el Patrimonio Mundial en Zacatecas, México, un centro categoría 2 que recientemente ha logrado activar la Junta de Administración, ha desarrollado un plan de trabajo participativo a nivel subregional y también ha generado una propuesta de plan subregional para la Convención del Patrimonio Mundial. Se han conseguido importantes avances en la formulación y desarrollo de un programa de capacitación, de formación subregional sobre las ciudades como patrimonio, el cual también se lleva a cabo de manera conjunta por los Estados parte, como una muestra del compromiso con la Convención. En esta línea de ideas solicitamos al Centro de Patrimonio Mundial continuar acompañando los procesos de construcción de capacidades locales para la Convención, instándole a continuar promoviendo los procesos de intercambio de experiencias a nivel multirregional. Estamos convencidos que la red de centros de categoría 2 y su fortalecimiento permitirán construir una lista creíble, representativa y equilibrada, que ya muchas otras delegaciones han expresado sus preocupaciones. Sin perder la oportunidad, también quiero concluir felicitando los esfuerzos realizados para construir sinergias con otras convenciones y promover una participación activa de los pueblos indígenas, de la juventud y de otros sectores de la sociedad que en muchos casos se relaciona directamente con la conservación, el desarrollo sostenible, pero especialmente con la legitimidad del patrimonio mundial desde una perspectiva local.
Thank you very much. And now I give the floor to the representative of Bosnia.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la Présidente. Tout d'abord, nous voudrions féliciter la directrice du Centre du patrimoine mondial pour cet, à notre avis, excellent rapport, qui est aussi en même temps très, très complet. Dans ce sens, nous voudrions souligner trois aspects que nous jugeons assez importants. Le premier aspect, et ici nous parlons hélas de notre propre expérience d'il y a 20 ans, c'est la nécessité de continuer à soutenir les États membres ou des zones qui ont subi la destruction de la guerre et où le patrimoine culturel, surtout le patrimoine culturel, a été détruit ou endommagé. Et ici, à notre avis, il s'agit d'un problème très complexe qui va au-delà juste de la question de la reconstruction ou de la conservation du patrimoine. Ici, il s'agit aussi d'une grande nécessité de continuer avec les activités du renforcement de capacités, mais dans un contexte encore plus large, y compris bien sûr une grande nécessité pour continuer avec la formation. La deuxième chose qui est pour nous très très importante, je pense que certains collègues ont déjà parlé de cela, c'est la question de la conservation. La question de la conservation est très très importante, mais aussi nous pensons qu'au même niveau, c'est la question de l'inscription. Pourquoi? Parce qu'on pense que sur tous les pays, les États membres qui sont sous-représentés et qui ont certains problèmes matériaux, pour eux, le fait d'avoir une inscription représente une très importante impulsion pour les activités importantes de la conservation. Et pour cette raison, nous pensons qu'il faut mettre au même niveau les questions de la conservation et de l'inscription, parce que, comme j'ai dit, nous pensons que l'inscription pourrait servir d'une impulsion très importante pour les activités de la conservation. Troisième chose pour nous aussi, c'est, je pense que les autres collègues ont déjà mentionné, c'est la question des pays qui sont sous-représentés sur la liste du patrimoine mondial. Il faut continuer avec le soutien en essayant d'établir un meilleur équilibre entre les différentes régions du monde. Et on va finir par nous féliciter des activités du Centre du patrimoine mondial dans le domaine de l'établissement d'une synergie encore plus importante entre notre convention et les autres conventions de l'UNESCO. Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup. Now I give the floor to the representative of the Republic of Korea.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I congratulate you, Madam Chair, on your election and convey my wishes for a very successful session under your able leadership. I also would like to extend my sincere appreciation to Dr. Ressler and her teammates for their excellent job and hard work throughout the year. Among many meaningful accomplishments in the report, I'd particularly like to express my gratitude to the World Heritage Center for commissioning the study project on interpretation sites of memory, which was conducted by the International Coalition of Sites of Conscience. Interpretation of a World Heritage property is becoming more significant than ever. In this regard, the study project was well carried out in a timely manner, focusing on places with memorial aspects, including those properties with divergent and controversial interpretation. The study recognizes that when developing the interpretation of a site, differing perception of a site of memory could exist, and this should be taken into note. Hence, It recommends that state body develop an interpretive framework to embrace the whole context, such as the site's historical past, as well as its present-day meanings. Therefore, it is very important to widely disseminate and share the fruitful outcomes of this study on the interpretation of World Heritage. I also believe the results of the study will provide a good guidance to all the state parties and to future decisions of the committee. In concluding, I'd like to reiterate the readiness and willingness of the Republic of Korea for its continuous cooperation with the Center to promote the importance of the interpretation of a World Heritage property. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And now I give the floor to the representative of Belgium.
Thank you much. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. As it is the first time that we are taking the floor, we also wish to congratulate you with your election as chairperson and thank the authorities of the Kingdom of Bahrain for the hospitality and the excellent facilities that are provided to us. On behalf of my delegation, I wish to make the following observations regarding the paragraphs 84 to 89 of the report concerning the expert meetings and thematic studies on memory sites. We firmly believe that sites of memory are not by definition negative and divisive, but on the contrary, can act as powerful vectors for peace, dialogue, and reconciliation. This is one of the pillars and one of the raison d'etre of this organization, and a dimension that has been widely recognized also by the committee. We do understand the wish for the development of further guidance regarding memory sites and are willing and to contribute to this, but we do believe that the committee could encourage state parties to take into account a few principles, for example, like a certain historical perspective. The study on interpretation in recommendation 16 is mentioning 50 years, the need for an inclusive and balanced interpretation framework, and a pacified consensual nature of the proposed properties. But we would caution for a standstill, and we believe that the committee does dispose of the tools and the mandate to examine all nominations, also those with a memorial dimension, thereby fulfilling its essential functions. Well, in the end, the work of the committee comes down to assessing the outstanding universal value of properties and ensuring their protection, conservation, and transmission to future generations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now I give the floor to the representative of Sweden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, we would like to thank you in the host country for the very warm welcome. We are confident that this will be a successful session of the committee under your leadership. Thank you also for giving us the opportunity to speak as an observer. We would like to comment on the important role of civil society in the implementation of the Convention and at committee sessions. We thank the former chair for opening up the floor to observers in Krakow last year. It was enriching to hear more voices, especially from the NGOs present, and we hope that this practice will be continued at this session. Sweden looks forward to a continued discussion on how to engage with NGOs in a more productive and inclusive manner during the committee meetings. We thank the World Heritage Center for a thorough report. We particularly welcome the efforts to integrate Agenda 2030 and gender equality in the work of the Convention. The report highlights the worrying trend in the committee to deviate from the recommendations of the advisory bodies, especially regarding nominations to the World Heritage List. This is problematic since it threatens the legitimacy of the Convention, the committee and the list. The outstanding universal value, including protection and management, is a precondition for the credibility of the list. The committee's ad hoc working group is looking into these questions. We encourage continued work on these issues since they are of fundamental importance for the sustainable future of the Convention. Increased cooperation, transparency and dialogue between the states parties and the advisory bodies in upstream processes and World Heritage nominations is a good example of progress, but more can be done. As for the nomination process, there is room for further improvement regarding the preparation of the nomination files before they are presented to the committee. This would require substantial changes to the nomination and evaluation process, and we believe that such changes are not only possible but absolutely crucial. Finally, the sustainability of the World Heritage Fund must be resolved. Conservation should be at the core of the work. Furthermore, we consider that the current actions should be complemented with more cost-saving measures. Additional resources to the fund is also urgently needed. And this is why Sweden, on a voluntary basis, has redoubled its financial contribution, and we strongly encourage other state parties to do the same. Thank you, Madam Chairperson.
Thank you very much. And now I give the floor to the representative of Chile.
Gracias, señora presidenta. Primero que nada, felicitarla por su elección. Al mismo tiempo, agradecer al país anfitrión por su generosa hospitalidad, la generosa hospitalidad que hemos recibido, y también agradecer a la delegación de España que nos permite expresarnos en nuestra propia lengua. Creo que es de justicia felicitar al Centro del Patrimonio Mundial por la labor de protección y conservación del patrimonio mundial que realiza, como han dicho varias delegaciones, en circunstancias difíciles. Especialmente nos gustaría agradecer la colaboración del Centro del Patrimonio Mundial en el seminario mencionado en el informe, Experiencias de Chile y México para la gestión y conservación de sitios del patrimonio mundial. Este tipo de actividades, este seminario, es un ejemplo de cooperación internacional en la materia y una experiencia virtuosa que creemos que puede ser replicada, en la que los Estados partes se apoyan mutuamente para mejorar la gestión de los sitios. En esta línea, la cooperación entre los Estados es un elemento clave en la implementación de las decisiones del Comité y que, por lo tanto, creemos que debe ser promovida. Muchas gracias, Presidenta.
Thank you very much. And now I give the floor to the representative of Mexico.
Muchas gracias, señora presidenta. Y le agradecemos, así como a los miembros del comité, por permitirnos el uso de la palabra. Asimismo, agradecemos, es la primera ocasión que lo hacemos, al Reino de Bahrain su generosa recepción y magnífica organización de esta sesión del comité. Felicitamos a la directora del Centro del Patrimonio Mundial por el informe presentado que da cuenta del arduo, detallado y puntual trabajo del mismo, y de manera especial por el trabajo para la implementación conjunta de las convenciones culturales de la UNESCO, tema que México ha impulsado también desde el ámbito iberoamericano. La visión articulada de las mismas, junto con programas como el del Escudo Azul, tan invaluable en estos tiempos, es fundamental para lograr consolidar políticas de prevención, de rescate y conservación de nuestra común herencia cultural y natural. Agradecemos también al Gobierno de España por el fundamental apoyo para que nuestro idioma sea escuchado y traducido en este comité. Y finalmente, queremos reiterar nuestro compromiso con la Convención y con la UNESCO en cuanto a la consolidación de los trabajos del Instituto Regional para el Patrimonio Mundial en Zacatecas, que fue concebido y puesto en marcha por el Gobierno de México como un espacio de consolidación de las voluntades y los esfuerzos de la subregión, y cuyo establecimiento en 2010 contó con la presencia de representantes, entre otros países, de nuestros siempre queridos hermanos de Cuba, y también con la presencia de autoridades de Bahrein. Finalmente, agradecemos la siempre invaluable asistencia del Centro del Patrimonio Mundial para obtener el Fondo de Emergencia del Patrimonio Mundial ante el sismo de septiembre de 2017, que dañó a 5 bienes del patrimonio mundial y a más de 2.000 monumentos y sitios culturales en nuestro país. Ante ello, reafirmamos nuestro compromiso por reforzar la correcta implementación de la Convención del Patrimonio Mundial. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. And now, the NGOs, please.
Yes, it's a representative from an NGO in Suriname.
Please.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I am speaking on behalf of the International Indigenous Peoples Forum on World Heritage, which was established last year in Krakow by the Indigenous Peoples delegates present for 41COM. Through this forum, we aim to develop a coordinated, constructive, and effective participation of Indigenous peoples in all processes of the World Heritage Convention. We very much appreciate Decision 41COM, which notes the establishment of the Indigenous Peoples Forum as an important platform on the involvement of Indigenous peoples in the identification, conservation, and management of World Heritage properties. The World Heritage Sustainable Development Policy includes special sections on the need to ensure respect for Indigenous peoples and their rights in World Heritage processes. To be effective, however, the policy will need to be followed up with changes to the operational guidelines and other measures to translate its principles into actual operational procedures. In that respect, we note that the report of the World Heritage Center being considered here does not mention the implementation of Decision 39COM11 on the revision of the operational guidelines, in which the committee reiterated its decision to re-examine the recommendations of the 2012 expert workshop on World Heritage and Indigenous peoples in Copenhagen, following the results of the discussions by the Executive Board on the UNESCO policy on Indigenous peoples. The policy was adopted by the Executive Board in October 2017 and repeats that UNESCO is committed to the full realization of the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. We therefore kindly request this committee meeting to take a decision on re-examining the aforementioned recommendations, possibly through the establishment of a working group to be convened intersessionally. Finally, Madam Chair, we kindly invite all states and organizations here to the formal launch event of the Indigenous Peoples Forum on World Heritage tonight at 6:30 in room 53 or Hawar. At this event, we will provide an overview of our provisional strategy for the stronger engagement of Indigenous peoples with the World Heritage Convention, including the work of the advisory bodies who have warmly welcomed the establishment of the forum. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. And now I give the floor to Mrs. Roessler to share with us her comments and answer to your questions.
Costa Rica raised the floor? No?
Costa Rica?
Where are they? Do you not see them?
Yes, okay. So before Mrs. Roessler, please, Costa Rica, if you have, we will listen to your comment.
Sí, muchas gracias, señora presidenta. La delegación de Costa Rica desea agradecer al Reino de Bahrain y a todas las personas que han participado en la organización de esta reunión, así como a España, que ha hecho posible que nuestras intervenciones las podamos realizar en el idioma español. Los esfuerzos de generar el plan de trabajo subregionales son fundamentales para fomentar el intercambio y sistematización de experiencias en los países, así como de promover un trabajo conjunto y coordinado que busque una mejor aplicación de la Convención. Es por esto que, de la reunión que se hizo en Zacatecas, estamos muy satisfechos de lograr concluir un plan de acción subregional para América Central y México, así como una serie de perfiles de proyectos cuyo financiamiento es clave para una región con una riqueza cultural y natural excepcional.
En Costa Rica, los representantes nacionales del Comité de Patrimonio Mundial que participaron en la reunión en Zacatecas han establecido a nivel nacional las primeras fechas de reunión para coordinar las acciones del plan de trabajo, y es que desde una perspectiva integral para la protección del patrimonio natural y cultural se ha asumido con compromiso los retos definidos. Agradecemos al Centro de Patrimonio Categoría 2 de Zacatecas y al Centro de Patrimonio Mundial por instrumentalizar este proyecto. Gracias.
Thank you very much. And now, Mrs. Roessler, the floor is for you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Let me first thank all the committee members and all the observers for the rich debate on this item, on the report of the Secretariat and also our thematic programs. Thank you for your great support. We are really grateful, and also the whole team sitting behind me and being behind in the offices. There were a few specific questions and comments I would like to answer here and refer to. On the intervention of Norway, it's absolutely clear that the committee can only inscribe sites on the World Heritage List where the OUV is clearly established through the criteria of the operational guidelines as per your guidelines which you have in front of you. But, you know, this was also reinforced by the audit by the Cour des Comptes of the global strategy in 2011, which was presented to this committee. Australia also referred to the credibility of the list and the functioning of the system, and both Bosnia and Australia referred to the key of this convention and some others as well, which is the conservation of the sites. Now, a number of countries commented that more reflection on the study on Criterion 6 and the one on interpretation memory is required, including by China and Indonesia and Azerbaijan, Cuba, as well as the observers, Korea and Belgium, made comments. As I said during the presentation, you have the possibility for more discussion on this, including through a side event with the advisory bodies and the authors of these studies. I also would like to thank Tanzania and Azerbaijan specifically to recall the necessary synergies among the culture and the biodiversity-related conventions. And I would like to inform you that the secretaries of the biodiversity-related conventions will meet in July in New York at a high-level political forum, and in September 2018 at UNESCO. And there was also reference made by Azerbaijan and also by Bosnia on the relations to the 1954 Convention. And I'm pleased to inform you that the 54 Convention was very closely involved in revising our format for the periodic reporting. So we try to increase the synergies wherever possible. In this regard, I would also like to thank Sweden because they provided support not only for the 1972 convention, but actually two other conventions for which I and my deputy, Mr. Lazar Elundo, are responsible. I would also like to thank Spain for recalling the importance of the Sustainable Development Policy and the Agenda 2030, which was also further elaborated on by Azerbaijan and by Brazil. For us, it's really important. We try to mainstream sustainable development, but I think it's even more important that the policies are taken seriously in the development of national policies and at the site level, and we are there to really support you. Hungary and a number of others mentioned also budgetary issues and the understaffing. We are fully aware that one team in the center is dealing with 500 sites or more than 500 sites, but we really hope that in Europe we have less problems with World Heritage properties than in many other regions where the resources are less than in the Europe and North America region. But I am very grateful to Hungary for seconding I have to say, excellent staff to the Europe team. You also requested some information on the cities program. I can give you some figures because we are running all the thematic programs exclusively through extra budgetary resources, and the cities program is both working on cities on the World Heritage List, of course collaborating also with the organization of World Heritage Cities, but also working on the historic urban landscape, and we are very grateful for support, extra budgetary support from China in this regard. A number of you mentioned capacity building, including Cuba, Guatemala, Chile and Costa Rica. I will come back under item 6 on the category 2 centers and capacity building. And finally, the question by the NGOs on the Indigenous Peoples Forum. We were very pleased to see the decision of the World Heritage Committee last year. The decision relates to not only the forum, but also the integration of the Indigenous Peoples Policy, which was adopted at UNESCO, as I introduced this morning, as a living document. But the question is here, the integration into the operational guidelines. And as you know, the operational guidelines are not being discussed at this session. They will be discussed at the next session, which is the 43rd session next year. Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and please excuse me if I have forgotten anyone.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Roessler. And now, dear colleague, I now invite you to adopt the draft decision 42COM 5A, which is contained in the document 5A. And before that, I'll ask the reporter if she has any comments.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. No, we haven't received any amendments to the draft decision. Thank you.
Comments or questions? No. I see none. No. I therefore declare draft decision 42COM 5A adopted. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Cuba would like to say something, please.
Gracias, señora presidenta. Es una cuestión de procedimiento. No vamos a ver los proyectos de decisión, aunque se aprueben en su totalidad proyectados, porque me pareció que no proyectamos el proyecto de decisión. Aunque aprobemos en su totalidad, normalmente el procedimiento debería reflejar las dos decisiones en pantalla. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. The screens are to facilitate your work, but in case decisions have not changed, they are exactly as in the documents which are in front of you. I think every delegation has a full set of documents, but we are happy to upload in case it facilitates your work. No problem.
Is there any other comments? So, thank you very much. So now our next item is the report of the advisory bodies on their activities. These reports are presented in document 5B. I now invite the representative of ICOMOS to briefly present its report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. ICOMOS would like to express its deepest gratitude to the State Party of Bahrain for the organization of this session of the World Heritage Committee and for the warm welcome in this sunny city of Manama. This presentation will be a short summary of ICOMOS activities. The full report is available among the working documents. To begin with, I'd like to emphasize that ICOMOS is very much quality conscious. ICOMOS believes that the value of the World Heritage Convention, admired by millions of people and communities all over the world, can be maintained only with services of the highest quality. It has been of the utmost importance for ICOMOS to rigorously apply its World Heritage Code of Conduct throughout the evaluation process. ICOMOS has followed the evaluation scheme introduced last year. Hence, for the 2018 cycle, The World Heritage Panel of ICOMOS met in November 2017 and March 2018 at ICOMOS International Secretariat. The composition and overall information on the panel is available on ICOMOS website. All panel members worked on the pro bono basis throughout the entire process. The November panel was divided into 3 sessions. The first one was devoted to the presentation and discussion of nominations. The second were the meetings with state parties where issues identified the panel were presented. And the third was to agree on provisional decisions and identification of questions and issues to be included in our interim reports. Then exchanges with the nominating state parties took place between January and February this year. ICOMOS would like to thank the state parties for their kind availability to attend the meetings and to provide additional information. All final decisions on evaluations were taken in March after receiving and assessing additional information provided by state parties. ICOMOS carefully read and assessed all the information received, even in the cases where additional information had not been requested. This said, ICOMOS strongly feels that the time available under the current calendar to conduct dialogues with state parties is far too limited, especially for the state parties that are not yet very familiar with the nominating process. But we try to do our best. Additionally, I would like to mention that the several upstream reports were also presented at the World Heritage Panel in March for its review, according to the scheme that ICOMOS has implemented to strengthen and develop upstream assistance. Madam Chair, ladies and gentlemen, the cultural heritage of the world is facing new and difficult challenges. To cope with these difficulties and challenges, new scientific and theoretical tools are needed. ICOMOS has been contributing to the World Heritage System also on these aspects. To name a few, besides the discussion paper on sites associated with memories of recent conflicts in item 5A, ICOMOS has been contributing to discussions on the recovery and reconstruction of cultural heritage. Our most recent contribution is a matrix to conduct global case studies on the recovery and reconstruction. It is available on our website with some case studies given as examples. We will develop this work and expand the number of case studies. The ICOMOS Working Group on Climate Change and Heritage has been very active since its establishment in December 2017. It will have its first physical meeting here in Manama from tomorrow, thanks to the hospitality offered by the Bahrain National Museum. ICOMOS has been closely collaborating with IUCN and ICCROM for several important projects, for instance, for capacity building courses with ICCROM and the Nature Culture Journey in cooperation with IUCN. In the framework of European Year of Cultural Heritage, ICOMOS is also coordinating a project on quality principles for conservation within EU. It is hoped that the outcome could become a reference for conservation activities beyond EU borders. ICOMOS is organizing next month an event on sustainable development goals in New York City in cooperation with UNESCO and a number of civil society stakeholders. ICOMOS is engaged to advance its mission of working for the protection of cultural heritage, to build up bridges, and to foster understanding among people and cultures as a means to contribute to peace, security, and equality in the world. ICOMOS reaffirms its commitment to serve the World Heritage Committee and assist it to protect and conserve all the cultural heritage of the world and to transmit it to future generations. ICOMOS would like to express its sincere gratitude to the state parties of the Convention, to the World Heritage Committee, the World Heritage Center, IUCN, ICCROM, and other partner organizations for all the common work and the constant support for ICOMOS activities. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your fruitful report and presentation. Do you have any comments? Is there any comments, or we just go and proceed? Can you send me? Okay. So I now invite the representative of ICCROM to briefly present its report.
China.
Excuse me. I think China, they have they have comments. Please, China.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson, and good afternoon. I would like to start by expressing appreciation to the advisory bodies for the important contribution they've made to the protection of world heritage, for their endeavors to maintain professional and ethical standards, and for taking reform measures for this purpose. However, we noticed in recent years increasing divergence between WHC decisions and ICOMOS recommendations. We need to reflect on this for the forward-looking outlook of our common cause and of World Heritage protection. The World Heritage Convention has entrusted in us, the World Heritage Committee, and advisory bodies with sacred responsibilities. We need to work to the standard as stipulated in the Convention and to the expectation of the state parties whose diverse cultures and have enriched the World Heritage List. However, we have seen cases in recent years that demonstrate arbitrary and inconsistent application of criteria in its evaluations reports, misunderstandings or misleading and biased recognition of serial properties as a whole, and failure to or prejudice in judging authenticity and integrity in the context of cultural diversity. The main cause comes from the current evaluation process as a whole, but also from ICOMOS evaluation system itself. We would like, therefore, to suggest that the ICOMOS should take measures to stick to the principle of transparency, impartiality, and professionalism. We believe it is important to ensure the impartiality and its recommendations by not being the player and referee at the same time. The definitions of thematic studies should be inclusive of those done by advisory bodies as well as those research done by the other institutions. Secondly, increasing the diversity of its panel members, desk reviewers, and field mission experts, and expanding the pool of its advisors. Thirdly, respecting the role of its many scientific committees and the research outcome of external bodies. And finally, exercising open and inclusive debate to ensure fair and professional recommendations. I sincerely hope that they will help a healthy development of ICOMOS and the World Heritage protection in a more diverse world. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any other comments? No? Yes, there? No? Okay. Now I invite the representative of ICCROM to briefly present his report. Please. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. As this is the first time that ICCROM is taking the floor, I would like to express ICCROM's thanks to you and the government of Bahrain for the warm welcome and hospitality accorded to all people who have attended this conference and meeting. Chairperson, ICCROM is pleased to have the opportunity to say a few words about its activities in the past year in favor of the World Heritage Convention. The full report of ICCROM's activities can be found in document 5B. This year, ICCROM continued its role in the reactive monitoring process, taking part in 4 reactive monitoring missions and 1 advisory mission in Africa, Europe, the Arab states, and Asia, and the Pacific. Our participation in these missions not only helped to contribute to the better conservation at the sites involved, but it also contributed to our gaining knowledge, which helps us to better prepare our capacity building activities. We also actively participated in the ongoing work of the reflection year for the periodic reporting process, and we are looking forward to working with the regions that are now beginning the 3rd cycle of periodic reporting. Taking note of Committee Decision 13A from its 39th session, ICCROM was invited by ICOMOS to attend the ICOMOS World Heritage Evaluation Panel as a non-voting member. While attending the first panel in November of 2017, due to budgetary constraints, in 2018 we could not attend. In agreement with the World Heritage Center and ICOMOS, we did not attend this panel discussion. This decision was taken in recognition of the committee's stated goal of prioritizing states of conservation over nominations. Nonetheless, we remain available to participate in future meetings of ICOMOS World Heritage Panel as originally foreseen in the 2018-2019 budget. I am particularly pleased to reiterate ICCROM's commitment to its role as focal point for capacity building activities within the convention. In the past year, the new World Heritage Leadership Program, a joint program of ICCROM and IUCN, has increased its implementation with 2 international courses on interlinkages in the management of cultural and natural heritage and people-centered approaches to conservation. A new course combining these 2 themes will take place in Zambia this year in August. In addition, we have begun working on an online learning platform which will provide information on approaches to management of cultural and natural heritage, and including other subjects, areas such as disaster risk management and impact assessment. World Heritage Leadership is carried out in close collaboration with the World Heritage Center and ICOMOS, and with the very generous financial support of the Ministry of Climate and Environment of Norway. The 2 courses have also had a significant contribution from the government of Switzerland. ICCROM would like to thank Switzerland and especially Norway for their generous contribution to our capacity building efforts, and even more importantly for realizing that capacity building carried out today will improve the state of conservation of World Heritage properties for many years to come. I also ask other state parties to discuss with ICCROM and IUCN the possibility of joining in the support of World Heritage Leadership or other capacity building activities. ICCROM has further continued to collaborate with both Category 2 centers and universities around the world on capacity building activities. We have also coordinated several orientation sessions for committee members, the most recent one taking place yesterday in this very venue. You will hear further results on capacity building in the presentation on item 6 later today. As we meet today in the Arab States region, I would also like to highlight the work of the regional office in Sharjah. Several activities were implemented over the past years, including a series of short courses on conservation and documentation of built cultural heritage. And the Arab Cultural Heritage Forum was held in February 2018. An expert meeting on strengthening cultural heritage protection in the Arab region was also carried out in 2017 in the framework of the 41st session of the World Heritage Committee in Krakow, and the follow-up activities to that meeting are currently underway. I would also take this opportunity to mention that ICCROM and other advisory bodies will be holding a series of side events at this meeting, and one of them has already, or 2 of them have already taken place during the lunchtime. I've already mentioned the one today, and we also had an exhibition and the leadership program. Finally, as this is the first time that I have the opportunity to address this committee as the director of ICCROM, I would like to assure the committee of ICCROM's ongoing commitment to ensure the highest quality advisory service to the committee, state parties and other partners. We take this commitment very seriously. We must work together to protect the credibility of the convention so as to ensure that the heritage of outstanding universal value is transmitted to future generations. I pledge ICCROM's continued commitment to achieve this goal. I thank you again, Chairman, for the opportunity to present ICCROM's activities to the World Heritage Committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this important report. And before I give the floor to the reporter, I see if you have any comments or any question or anything. Yes? Have you seen any? Have you seen anybody? Cannot? No, thank you very much. Bosnia? Please, I give the floor to the representative of Bosnia.
Yeah. One very short comment. I like to emphasize importance to reduce differences and to harmonize the relation between experts who are preparing nomination and expert referees of nomination, because for one side we have, from my experience, 1,000 people working to prepare one file with spending a lot of time and money, and then we have referees who are coming, spending very short time and making very quick evaluation. I think should be some mechanism to harmonize these relations and more transparency in this work, and to have like continuity in the process of evaluation, like a much longer period. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any other comments? No. So thank you very much. Now I give the reporter the floor to give us any idea if there is any amendment or anything.
No.
I'm sorry.
IUCN.
ICCROM, I'm sorry. Yeah.
UCN.
So now the UC, I give the floor to the representative of IUCN. Excuse me.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And as this is IUCN's first intervention at the committee, may I first congratulate you on your election and express our thanks to the Kingdom of Bahrain for their generous hosting and organisation of this meeting. In fact, it's exactly 10 years that IUCN has been collaborating with Bahrain on World Heritage, notably to support the exceptional efforts to create the Arab Regional Centre for World Heritage and our joint regional programme on nature in the Arab states, Tabi'a. We've seen Bahrain's approach to World Heritage, which is marked by professionalism, quality and attention to detail, and we look forward to supporting you and supporting the committee during the coming days. My colleague Peter Shady, who's sat at the IUCN desk at the back of the room, is here with the delegation, and he and the team are here and at your service. Madam Chair, this year is the 70th birthday for IUCN and our historic relationship with UNESCO. We were born in 1948 out of the initiative of UNESCO's first Director General as an intergovernmental organisation, but with a unique DNA of state and civil society members, NGOs and Indigenous peoples, and a global network of 10,000 experts and close to 1,000 staff. Our instrumental role in supporting the creation of the World Heritage Convention in 1972 is one of our most highly regarded achievements in that long history, and our work as the official advisory body on nature since the Convention's adoption has been a constant commitment to rigorous and constructive technical advice to the highest standards of current practice. Our work on World Heritage is part of a much larger IUCN program committed to providing the knowledge and the tools to ensure that human progress, economic development and nature conservation can take place together. It is the intersection between nature and culture that defines our sense of identity and place. The quality of conservation of World Heritage sites is therefore a litmus test of global conservation efforts. If we cannot achieve the greatest excellence and equity in the conservation of World Heritage sites and their contribution to society, what does that say about our potential to secure our future on a living planet? Madam Chair, IUCN's report on our activities is before you, and I won't seek to repeat the content in it, except I would like to just note, and with thanks to the Republic of Korea, that the final draft of the long-awaited volcano theme study is now with us, and we expect to finalize that thematic study in the second half of this year. But I would like to just emphasize 3 points that seem to us to be crucial in underpinning the future of the Convention, and we hope these are points that will be addressed during the course of the coming days. In fact, some have already been broached partly in item 5A. The first is the challenge of securing the conservation of all World Heritage sites in the face of growing challenges. Our report refers to this document, which is the IUCN World Heritage Outlook, and we published the second edition of this in 2017. This is a global assessment of all natural sites that shows that 1/3 of the natural World Heritage sites have a conservation outlook that is not yet what we would need it to be, critical or an outlook with significant concerns. And we know from state of conservation reports that although natural sites cover only 19% of the listed properties, they account for nearly 1/3 of the sites on the list of World Heritage in danger. For the first time, the repeat of the World Heritage Outlook allows us to assess trends, and the picture is one of increasing threats coupled with some slipping conservation effectiveness. Climate change in particular is growing rapidly, and its impacts are evident in a greatly growing number of sites, although invasive species and tourism are also topping the list of current threats. The committee must redouble its efforts, and we must all redouble our efforts to support the conservation status of all World Heritage sites. The second point is the challenge of the continued lack of balance in the World Heritage List, which continues to favour the best represented regions and countries, and we see the vast majority of the nominations in the current cycle are from high and upper middle income countries and from countries already well represented on the World Heritage List. It's welcome to see that the call for support from the upstream process is seeing a growing set of requests from countries that are not so adequately represented. But this new process remains still chronically under-resourced, and we need a much more effective strategy to meet the challenge to achieve a balanced World Heritage List. The third key challenge is the need to see that World Heritage engages fully and on the ground with the benefits that local communities and Indigenous peoples expect from listing. In this regard, it's welcome to see the strengthened civil society participation in the Convention, the success of the second Site Managers Forum that's being hosted here in Bahrain, and the launch in particular of the World Heritage Indigenous Peoples Forum that's been referred to. But a future where World Heritage represents the best in conservation for culture, for nature and for communities requires a much more ambitious approach to providing the resources and the capacity needed on the ground. We see the need for radically different approaches to partnership to enable sites to both lift their conservation performance, but also show the leadership that World Heritage status should stand for. Our joint work with ICCROM, that the Director General has referred to, and with ICOMOS and the World Heritage Centre, with the founding support of Norway to launch the World Heritage Leadership Programme, is one significant step in changing that dynamic, as is the growing portfolio of work on projects that are about celebrating the linkage of nature and culture. Madam Chair, may I close by saying that IUCN is committed to extend further our efforts to secure a better outlook for natural World Heritage and a brighter future for the World Heritage Convention. We look forward to the opportunities of this meeting to strengthen our efforts together. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much for this report, and I now open the floor for you. If you have any comments or question or Cuba. Now I give the floor to Cuba.
Gracias, señora presidenta. Nuestra intervención viene un poco a la luz de lo planteado también por el embajador de China, y es esa preocupación y sobre la necesidad de un diálogo cada vez más transparente entre los órganos de evaluación y los estados partes de la Convención. Si este diálogo no es fructífero y no prolifera, es muy difícil asegurar la conservación de los sitios declarados o sobre los mecanismos de monitoreo reactivos aplicados. observamos con preocupación que muchas veces el lenguaje aplicado en las resoluciones no es cordial, no es favorable y muchos de los estados se sienten verdaderamente ofendidos o maltratados en el lenguaje que muchas veces, y la Secretaría deberá velar porque sea un lenguaje respetuoso. Creo que en este órgano, como en ninguno otro de la UNESCO, encontramos un lenguaje en ocasiones agresivo contra los Estados miembros. Y es importante comprender la necesidad de guardar un equilibrio y una armonía entre la conservación y el derecho al desarrollo que tienen muchos estados actualmente, y sobre todo estados en situaciones económicas complejas y desfavorables. Veo también que hay una desconexión con la Agenda de Desarrollo 2030 que estimula un desarrollo sostenible, y no encuentro esa armonía dentro de las decisiones, dentro del arbitraje que hacen estos órganos y ese lenguaje acordado internacionalmente de tener un desarrollo sostenible donde el patrimonio también juega un valor fundamental. Y eso lo estamos viendo también mucho en los sitios naturales, ese lenguaje complejo, esa limitación al Estado a desarrollarse como es su derecho soberano, y creo y exhortamos a buscar un punto medio en que, sin llegar a un desequilibrio de la lista, haya un diálogo cada vez más constructivo entre los órganos de evaluación y los estados partes de este comité. Tenemos otros ejemplos en la organización donde, cuando este diálogo ha tenido una fractura, simplemente ha sido terrible. Tenemos experiencias en otros órganos como los órganos de evaluación han tenido que renunciar a sus funciones, y creo que este tampoco es el sentido de este comité. Reitero, exhortamos a los órganos de evaluación y a la Secretaría a abogar por un diálogo cada vez más constructivo, a reflexionar sobre qué mecanismos pudiéramos crear para establecer este diálogo antes de que el comité delibere con los Estados miembros, para poder llegar a un punto de acuerdo. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. And now I give the floor to the representative of Norway.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My comment concerns all the three advisory bodies and is quite brief, and we also have a concern to phrase. Well, first of all, the advisory bodies are very important in order to secure the quality and neutrality of the work of the World Heritage Committee. The advisory bodies are keepers of an institutional memory which is of invaluable importance to the implementation of the Convention. The advisory bodies are in many ways the base on which we rest the construction of our work. This cooperation is built on trust and verifiability, and we must continue to seek solutions and processes that can build this relationship. The Norwegian delegation has read the report of the advisory bodies with interest, and we see with appreciation that the advisory bodies have been able to execute a substantial number of tasks given by the committee. We would, however, like to draw your attention to one specific paragraph of the report, namely paragraph 72, that states that in some cases it has not yet been possible to reconcile these statements with the decisions of the committee and the requirements of the Convention. This is a critical piece of information, and it should be taken due note of in our further deliberations and decision-making, namely that provisional statements of UV must be avoided. This is a topic that can be clarified and discussed further during the general debate under item 8, the item that was proposed by Australia earlier today. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. And now I give the floor to the representative of Angola.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. L'Angola reconnaît et félicite les organisations consultatives pour le travail qu'elles développent en étroite collaboration avec les États parties de la Convention et les centres de catégorie 2 et d'autres institutions et d'autres parties prenantes sur le renforcement des capacités, sur la préparation des dossiers d'inscription et sur le développement des études sur de nouvelles thématiques. L'Angola a bien pris note du document de réflexion développé par l'ICOMOS sur les évaluations des sites associés aux mémoires des récents conflits, mais nous aimerions toutefois avoir, si possible, certaines informations additionnelles sur les experts qui ont été impliqués dans l'élaboration de ces documents. Compte tenu de certains points qui méritent d'être approfondis à cause de la complexité de cette thématique, l'Angola encourage l'ICOMOS à poursuivre cette discussion en impliquant un large éventail de parties prenantes intéressées par cette thématique afin de permettre dans un avenir proche l'enrichissement de la diversité des sites inscrits sur la liste du patrimoine mondial et d'équilibrer cette liste du point de vue géographique. L'Angola a soumis des amendements sur le projet de décision que nous soumettons donc à l'appréciation des autres membres du comité. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much. And now I give the floor to the representative of Azerbaijan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We thank the advisory bodies for their report. The Republic of Azerbaijan is always of the view that the World Heritage Committee should preserve its expert nature. And in this regard, the role of advisory bodies as an expert institutions is of crucial importance for us. We also take note with appreciation the activities done by advisory bodies in such important areas as capacity building, preservation of heritage, and many others. However, we want to draw your attention to several important issues and concerns. As I previously mentioned, the core role and added value of the advisory bodies is to bring expertise to our committee. And this implies that it will be away, this expertise will be away from the considerations of other nature, which can be derived from the other considerations like imposing the limits to the possible inscriptions and many other issues, predictions of outcomes from the decisions of the committee. Secondly, with time evolving, we observe several relatively new approaches and methodologies in evaluation and implementation of the 1972 Convention and the decisions of the committee, introduced by advisory bodies without prior consultation with the member states and other stakeholders. However, we believe that it is very important that these new tendencies are discussed and approved among all stakeholders, members of the committee, World Heritage Center, advisory bodies, site managers, and national committees. Thirdly, we think that the issue of reliability of the source of information is important. We see that information provided by state parties are verified by certain NGOs and other organizations, but not always, if any, information provided by NGOs are verified with the state parties. There should be equal approach in this regard. And we believe that, with all due respect to the NGOs and the organizations, this verification of the information should be the other way around. Another matter of concern is divergence between the decisions of the committee and the evaluation and subsequent evaluation of advisory bodies. We often see the cases when the committee takes a decision and then the evaluation of the advisory bodies are completely different or neglecting the previous decisions taken by the committee. So we do invite the advisory bodies for the dialogue and to respect the decision taken by the committee. And finally, as we are living in a time when the sustainable development is a key issue in UN global agenda, and I saw that this issue also raised by the delegation of Cuba. So I want to remind that we have to be more balanced in the issues related to the preservation versus living heritage and sustainable development. Of course, preservation of the heritage is a main goal of the convention. However, the balance between the sustainable development must be kept in mind while approaching several cases before us. We believe that such balance can contribute both to the preservation of heritage and to the human well-being at the same time. Given the importance of this issue for all of us, I'm wondering if there is any serious study prepared by the advisory bodies or the World Heritage Center on this issue. And if not, then I invite the advisory bodies and jointly with the World Heritage Center to prepare some guidelines for the member states and for the site managers to deal with this very important issue. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now I give the floor to the representative of Tanzania.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Tanzania appreciates the detailed and informative activities report submitted by the advisory bodies, which cover various thematic areas relevant to the implementation of the Convention. We commend the advisory bodies for the excellent work they have been undertaking to further the aspirations of the Convention. However, we are concerned with the issue of excessive workload by the advisory bodies, especially with regard to processing of nomination dossiers against both a limited resource base and timeline, as determined by the fixed evaluation timetable provided for in the operation guidelines. We are worried, Madam Chair, that these long-term concerns might have already started to impact the speed and even the quality of evaluations. We recommend that the World Heritage Center works closely with the advisory bodies to further explore this issue by way of improving the situation. Madam Chairperson, at this juncture, Tanzania would also like to join hands in the submission by the distinguished delegate of Angola in proposing that the paper on sites associated with memories of recent conflicts currently available be further improved by broadening the participation of interested stakeholders in its review. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now I give the floor to the representative of Zimbabwe.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Zimbabwe would like to commend the activities of ICOMOS, ICCROM, and IUCN in ensuring the implementation of the World Heritage Convention. We recognize the efforts of the bodies in working together in achieving the key objectives of this important convention. We also recognize efforts in creating a balanced and representative World Heritage List, which includes, among others, initiatives such as the upstream process and collaborations with the African World Heritage Fund in the African World Heritage Nomination Support Program. We urge advisory bodies to continuously work together with state parties to ensure that the objectives of the global strategy are met. Let me also take this opportunity to congratulate IUCN and ICCROM on the new partnership with Norway on World Heritage Leadership, and we hope it will be a success in enhancing nature and culture conservation. The support from Norway in funding IUCN and ICCROM activities is also noted and appreciated. We join others in commending the advisory bodies on the partnership with the AWHF in capacity building, such as the risk preparedness workshops. We continue to be concerned, however, that the advisory bodies are not utilizing enough the African expertise in their work. We are, however, proud to note that the new Director General of Africa is from, the new Director General of ICCROM, is from Africa. The AWHF is also currently working on a database of experts, which we believe should go a long way in making our experts visible. Madam Chair, Zimbabwe would also want to support the draft amendments to the draft decision as submitted by Angola, so that it also enhances and incorporates some other experts that have been left behind in the current draft proposals. Madam Chair, Zimbabwe also supports the recommendation by the Chinese delegation and many others for dialogue between the committee and advisory bodies to avoid the situation where there is discord between the World Heritage Committee and advisory bodies. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now I give the floor to the representative of Australia.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to make a couple of comments in relation to the discussion so far. And firstly, that our observation is that the advisory bodies are continuously looking to improve the quality of their engagement with states parties and the transparency of their processes. And we have been a free giver of feedback about how that can be improved, both with IUCN and with ICOMOS, and that feedback has been gratefully received. Perhaps there are occasions where communication could have been better and the rationale for recommendations better, but these, in our experience and on our observations, are rare exceptions. The problem that the advisory bodies face is one of resources, financial, and the time available in the nomination process, and you'll see in ICOMOS's papers a suggestion that the nomination process could be extended beneficially by 12 months, and that would certainly help the dialogue with states parties. But the advisory bodies and the committee therefore also face unacceptably late provision of information by states parties, sometimes only once they have seen their aspirations for inscription on the World Heritage List may not be realised. On the question of sustainable development, I would say the World Heritage System has worked very well to embrace the sustainable development goals, but I must make the observation that World Heritage is World Heritage, and a place is only on the World Heritage List at the nomination of the states parties. Nobody else brings forward nominations. When listing occurs, we are all joined in this global compact to protect and conserve these places. The advisory bodies are charged with the responsibility of advising the committee and states parties on the protection of these places. Sometimes that advice is uncomfortable, and we can attest to that very fact in Australia in recent times, both in relation to the Tasmanian Wilderness World Heritage Area and the Great Barrier Reef. But that advice and the support of it by the World Heritage Committee has driven significant improvement in Australia's management of those World Heritage places, and we continue to welcome that advice. But that discomfort doesn't absolve us of the responsibility, working within our sovereign systems of government in all their complexity and all their different forms. It doesn't absolve us of the responsibility to act consistently with our obligations under the World Heritage Convention.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Is there any other comments? You may want to reply or say anything.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you very much, all distinguished delegates, committee members. We took notes, your comments and constructive criticism, and we will try to our best to improve the system and our mechanism so that we could be more satisfactory for all stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, ICOMOS is also sitting there.
Yeah, okay. Please.
Just to echo what has been said by ICOMOS, that we take the comments to be constructive and they should be taken into consideration. On behalf of ICCROM, I can only point out that the issues of sustainable development are very much part and parcel of our strategic directions for the next 6 years, and we will be obviously trying to make sure that we have a dialogue with state parties to ensure that whatever we do is transparent and it comes out of our discussions together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. IUCN, maybe you have some comments?
Thanks, Chair. Just perhaps to add on a few specific points that were raised as well. I think I made clear on the general point of the place of nature conservation in relation to sustainable development, that's IUCN's mainstream programmatic focus. We know that sometimes the challenge, as I think Australia explained with a couple of specific examples, can be quite difficult in terms of reconciling the protection of values with broader sustainable development goals, but the effort is always, as I explained in my intervention, to secure a place for World Heritage as part of the broader contribution to local communities, to economies, and to Indigenous peoples and results for people. On specific points, there were a number of comments made around dialogue. I'd like to just echo the comment that was made by ICOMOS and I think Tanzania and Australia both referred to this point on the fact that it's now many years that we've been in an exploration with the committee and with the ad hoc group at looking at ways to improve the process opportunities for dialogue, but it's now very difficult to find more time in the system to allow for dialogue, which is often needed really quite late in the cycle of committee processes. So I think that there are opportunities on the committee's agenda under the discussion on upstream process for nominations and item 7 general to look at whether there are any further opportunities. Certainly it's always welcome to have specific proposals for what could be done, because then we can see what the realities are, and you know, that might be a way to see if there's anything we've not tried. But I think that we're getting to a point where there's a need for a more radical approach to the time for dialogue in situations where we can see very difficult issues that have not been resolved. One specific point from IUCN, though, is that we are, and I think I say this at every committee, we are very keen to see states parties come and visit us in IUCN, and we would like to invite states parties whenever you would wish to engage in dialogue to do that. I'd like to acknowledge Australia, Spain, China and Japan twice in the current cycle of procedures where we've been able to meet on site at IUCN's offices in just outside Geneva, and we'd welcome it if more states parties took advantage of that opportunity. I would just then like to just cover two other specific points, and they're both I think in the set of points that Azerbaijan was raising. I think the Centre might also comment on this, but I'd like to just reassure you that as far as the procedures are concerned, and it's paragraph 174 of the operational guidelines, there should be no information from civil society sources, NGOs, that appears in any state of conservation report that has not first had the state party approached to comment. I think the operational guidelines asks for verification as far as possible. It is the reality sometimes that we have neither reports from states parties nor responses to requests, but there should be nothing in a state party report where there's not been disclosure and the opportunity for feedback. And the last was the comment on guidance to look at this question of placing World Heritage in the framework of sustainable development. One of the goals of the World Heritage Leadership Programme is to revise completely the current separate manuals on managing cultural World Heritage and natural World Heritage into a broader guide on managing World Heritage for nature, culture and communities. And that could be one good opportunity to address the need that you identified. So thank you for that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. And now I think lastly we'll give the floor to the ICOMOS.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to answer very briefly the query from the Honourable Delegate for Angola about the participation in the drafting of the ICOMOS paper on the evaluation of sites associated with memories of recent conflict. I'd just like to confirm that the paper involved the participation of 23 people from 23 different countries, and they reflected all the various regions. 8% from Africa, 12% from the Arab states, 20% Asia Pacific, 56% from Europe, and 4% from Latin America and the Caribbean. Of course, as the discussion moves forward, even broader participation in this debate would be extremely helpful. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now I think we have to see with the reporter about the amendments. I think I saw the Secretariat give us the circulate an amendments. I don't know whether they put it in the screen. I give the floor to the reporter to give us an idea about the amendment.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Indeed, as it has been flagged during the discussion, we have received one amendment presented by the delegation of Angola, which you will now see reflected on the screens. This amendment is supported by Tanzania, and I will now proceed to read it out clearly. So the new paragraph 3 would read, takes note with appreciation of the paper on the evaluations of World Heritage nominations related to sites associated with memories of recent conflicts developed by ICOMOS, and encourages ICOMOS to further improve this paper by broadening the participation of stakeholders in this new thematic, including from the African region. Madam Chair, if I may, I wish to make a small suggestion just for the sake of using standardized language. And in this sense, since paragraph 2 starts with takes note with appreciation, paragraph 3 would read also takes note with appreciation, and the new paragraph 4 would read finally takes note of the progress made, and so on. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. I see Zimbabwe would like to have the word, Zimbabwe, and then Cuba. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Zimbabwe also supports the draft decision proposed by Angola. I would like also to propose just a slight addition to that, where it says in this new thematic, just to add area, new thematic area. I know it's new language now, which is shortening things, but it's easier to understand when you say area. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I give the floor to Cuba.
Sí, gracias, señora presidenta. No tenemos problema con la decisión, pero nos parece que no refleja el debate que ha tenido lugar previo a que se presentara esta decisión en torno a la preocupación manifestada por un grupo de Estados miembros sobre el proceso de diálogo que deberá ejercerse, que deberá fortalecerse entre los órganos de evaluación y los Estados parte de la Convención. Por tanto, creo que estaríamos en condiciones de proponer, ya tanto para el texto de la decisión como para su informe oral, que toma nota de la preocupación expresada por un grupo de Estados miembros en torno a la necesidad de fortalecer el diálogo entre los órganos de evaluación y los Estados partes, si no, esta decisión no estuviera reflejando el debate que ha tenido lugar en este examen del punto.
Thank you very much. Now I give the floor to Spain.
Sí, gracias, Presidenta. Nuestra delegación le gustaría hacer una reflexión de tipo procedimental y otra del contenido que nos presenta Angola. De tipo procedimental, en el sentido de que nos gustaría, si es posible, tener estas enmiendas para poder tener una reflexión un poquito antes de que se planteen en la pantalla. Y en segundo lugar, tampoco nos sentimos muy cómodos con la redacción establecida en cuanto al término de stakeholders. No sabemos muy bien, es un término demasiado amplio, es un concepto un tanto indeterminado y la verdad es que no nos sentimos muy cómodos con que aparezca esta participación. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you very much. And now I give the floor to China.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Sorry. We would simply like to echo what the Cuba delegation has expressed, and we add our support to this notion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any other comments? Cuba, please.
Sí, no tendríamos problema en presentar una propuesta de párrafo, muy sencillo, si quiere lo hacemos al finalizar de los debates, antes de pasar a la adopción o ahora como usted desee.
Thank you. Yeah, yes, please, you can do. And now I give the floor to Azerbaijan.
Yes, Madam Chair, I would like also to support the proposal of Cuba to add some paragraphs which reflects the debates that we had so far. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think there is another. Huh? Who? Kuwait. I give the floor now to Kuwait.
The state of Kuwait congratulate you, Your Excellency, for chairing the World Heritage. This is the first time we're taking the floor. We also would like to thank the World Heritage Center for the excellent work they're doing and all the advisory board. We also support Cuba's suggestion for the adding the words for more dialogue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any other suggestion?
You can ask Cuba to read out the text.
Cuba, can you please read the suggested text?
Sí, gracias, señora Presidente. Pide a la Secretaría tome debida nota de los debates sobre la necesidad de mejorar el diálogo entre los órganos de evaluación y los Estados partes.
Everybody agree? Yes? Yeah. Yes, Australia, please take the floor.
Thank you. In looking at that, I made our intervention earlier expressing the view that while there was room always to improve the quality of dialogue, it was reasonably good at the moment. And I think here, for me, we would be happier with a formulation which was more to affirm the value of strengthening dialogue between the advisory bodies and the states parties. And that therefore couches the commentary in a positive frame, which I think is very important. So I'm proposing an alternative form, which I will read again. And that is, affirms the value of strengthening dialogue between the advisory bodies and states parties.
Norway, please take the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Norway supports the amendment made by Australia. We also have the same notion of the discussion, and there are issues here that will be discussed later on during our session, during 12A, for example, or 12B. So we support Australia. Could I also ask, because we are a bit unsure what we ask ICOMOS to do, since in Decision 5A, there's a decision on the further work on this topic or this theme. which includes several experts meetings perhaps, and a process that will take another 2 years. Is this something that will be part of that process, or is it something extra that we're asking for? I'm a bit confused. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Cuba, please take the floor.
Gracias, señora presidenta. Dos comentarios. No le estamos pidiendo nada a ICOMOS. Le estamos pidiendo a la Secretaría que tome debida nota de los debates. Si este párrafo que proponemos pasa a su informe oral, podríamos aceptar la propuesta de Australia con un añadido. Reafirme la próxima agenda del orden del día de esta reunión para debatir de este tema. De esa manera podríamos ir con esa propuesta de Australia. Se incluya un punto en el orden del día para debatir sobre ese particular. Así podríamos acompañar, si no iríamos también con este mismo añadido al párrafo 5.
Thank you very much. I give the floor to Mrs. Rosler to answer.
Thank you very much. Just referring to the intervention from Cuba, and to clarify, it is not in the oral report of the chairperson, it is in the summary record, so all your debates are duly reflected in the summary records. Thank you.
Okay, then now I give the floor to China, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. I'm sorry to ask for the floor again. I thought there isn't much conflict between the Cuba proposed wording and the Australia and Norway proposed. Perhaps we could combine them too. In fact, it's a sort of the second one affirms the value. It's a sort of a general statement. But I think the earlier question was that we are trying also to encourage the improvement of dialogue, which means that there is room for improvement. It's not only a general view on the strengthening of the dialogue. So I think it wouldn't, in our view, not redundant, just to add the entire phrase proposed by Australia and the stated wording. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now I give the floor to Spain.
Muchas gracias, señora presidenta. Incidiendo en lo que acaba de decir el delegado de China, creemos que el nuevo párrafo consolida tanto el valor del refuerzo del diálogo como la necesidad de llevarlo a cabo. Sin embargo, a nosotros nos parece correcto que haya una mención a las evaluaciones que se han hecho en el área de la memoria y así como es lógico que se incluya a la región africana, sí que nos gustaría volver a la redacción original que nos ha sido circulada por la delegación de Angola y hacer una referencia a expertos y no a los stakeholders, puesto que stakeholders en esta parte a ONGs, pero preferimos que se circunscriba a otros expertos. Puede calificarse o no de renombre, pero preferimos la palabra expertos que stakeholders. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. Now I give the floor to Australia.
Thank you, Chair. Just in the interest of helping draw this item to a conclusion, may I say that we would be very happy with the amendment proposed by Cuba, and if it is to the words that we suggested, and if it is the desire of the committee to also include the reflection currently at point 5, which was proposed by Cuba, then we will not be objecting to that proposition.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Now I give the floor to Tunisia.
Merci Madame la Présidente. La Tunisie souhaite apporter sa convergence et son soutien à l'opinion émise par la Chine, puisqu'il nous paraît tout à fait possible et loisible de joindre les deux paragraphes. Je crois que le centre du paragraphe proposé par Cuba est autour d'améliorer le dialogue, et le centre du paragraphe proposé par l'Australie, c'est un renforcement du dialogue. Le premier parle de qualité, le second parle d'intensité et de quantité. Je crois qu'ils sont tout à fait mariables et que donc un seul paragraphe synthétique est tout à fait envisageable. D'ailleurs, ça montre combien il est très difficile de refléter un débat, même sur un plan linguistique.
Thank you very much. Now I give the floor to the representative of Uganda.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson. And since I'm taking the floor for the first time, allow me to congratulate you on your assumption of the leadership of our committee. Now, commenting on the proposal the proposals by both Cuba and Australia, I also support the view that they are both talking about the same thing, but using different words. So the best approach would be to marry them. And I have a compromise statement here that could probably be a way of having a way forward. And it reads that requests, number 5 would read, requests the Secretariat to act on the urgent need to improve the dialogue between the advisory bodies and the states parties. I beg to submit.
Thank you very much. Now I give the floor to Angola, pardon. Angola.
Madame la Présidente, nous sommes d'accord avec la proposition de l'Espagne de changer les parties prenantes par les experts, mais nous aimerions que ce soit seulement les experts au lieu des experts de renom. Ça peut être subjectif, ça. Donc, expert nous convient bien.
Thank you very much. Now I give the floor to the reporter to just clear the text for us and put it as final text, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So we have received a number of amendments, and I will start from the top. So for paragraph 3, we now have Zimbabwe also co-sponsoring the paragraph, and we have 2 small modifications. One would be to strike out renowned and stakeholders, and the other one by Zimbabwe would be to add the word area to thematic, so that the new paragraph would read, and I will now proceed to read it as amended, also takes note with appreciation of the paper on the evaluations of World Heritage nominations related to sites associated with memories of recent conflicts developed by ICOMOS, and encourages ICOMOS to further improve this paper by broadening the participation of experts in this new thematic area, including from the African region. So this would be the suggested paragraph 3. And then we have received, may I continue? Thank you, Madam Chair. And then we have received, if we could just scroll down a little bit. Thank you very much. And then we have received several amendments. The first one from Cuba, which would add a new paragraph 5 and would say, request the Secretariat to take good note of the discussions on the need to improve the dialogue between the advisory bodies and the states parties. To this proposal, we have received a counter-proposal by Australia and Norway, whereas paragraph 5 would read, affirms the value of strengthening dialogue between the advisory bodies and the states parties. And to this, Cuba has proposed to add at the end, and proposes that a point be added to the agenda on this issue at the next session of the World Heritage Committee. And finally, we have received one suggestion from Uganda. And in this sense, paragraph 5 would read, request the Secretariat to act on the urgent need to improve the dialogue between the advisory bodies and the states parties. During the debate, we have also received the proposal of China, supported by Tunisia, to merge the two proposals received by Cuba and Australia and Norway. And I don't know if we could maybe try to have the kind of a merged paragraph on the screen in this sense. And I would like to ask from China, who was the original proposal of merging the two paragraphs, if they would be on board with trying to merge them, starting with the proposal of Australia and Norway, so that the merged paragraph would start, affirms the value of strengthening dialogue, and then would come the request of Cuba at the end.
Australia, please.
I just wonder whether it might help in the spirit of trying to bring the two pieces together, as China has suggested and as our colleague from Uganda suggested, is that in the Australian text where it says the value of strengthening, if we added the words and improving dialogue, whether that would be, sorry, in the next paragraph down. Oh no, my apologies. Yes, so they're strengthening and improving dialogue. Would that meet the needs of the various contributors to this discussion?
Is everybody in agreement? Yes. China, please. China.
Just want to say that I think it's a very good addition, the improvement part, and it somehow also takes care of the proposal by Uganda. So I think it's a good, very good solution. As to the precise wording, of course, the Australians are much better than I do. I'm a non-native speaker.
Thank you very much. So, Cuba, please.
Sí, gracias, señora presidenta. No tenemos problema con la redacción. Nos parece que quedaría bien, pero tampoco queremos renunciar a la posibilidad de proponer este tema en el orden del día de la próxima sesión del Comité de Patrimonio Mundial, pero podría ser un nuevo párrafo. En principio, con este párrafo estaríamos bien.
Thank you very much. And Australia now, please take the floor.
Yeah, thank you. Perhaps this becomes redundant, but what I was suggesting is that I was actually thinking about the Australian original suggested text, which is the next one down, and therefore that one saying strengthening and improving the dialogue, and therefore that would still retain the proposal from Cuba that we talk about this at the next session of the World Heritage Committee. And then I just had a question about whether it's necessary, if that was to be the text, to also ask the Secretariat to be taking good note of it, given that this discussion will be reflected in the summary of the meeting.
Thank you very much. So I give the reporter now. you just suggest for us the final draft as suggested. Please.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So the suggestion as it stands now would read, as new paragraph 5, affirms the value of strengthening and improving dialogue between the advisory bodies and the states parties, and proposes that a point be added to the agenda on this issue at the next session of the World Heritage Committee. If I understood correctly.
Yes. Thank you. So, are you agreed for next session? Okay. Huh? Okay, I give the floor now to Zimbabwe.
Thank you, Chairperson. This is not my first language, but when we say affirms the value, and then we say this point will be discussed at the next committee meeting, what do we do in this year? Between this year and the next committee meeting, we are just affirming value of strengthening, but we are not doing any action. Whereas I think the original one seemed as if the Secretariat would create platforms for dialogue, would facilitate dialogue. The one that we are about to adopt, in fact, just says put it on the agenda for the next meeting, in my understanding of the language. I hope I am wrong.
You see, okay. Let us be practical. Now, there is no problem between these texts, just a few changes. Let us decide to adopt it if you like this year. I give now the floor to Cuba, and then you decide.
Gracias, señora presidenta. Yo entiendo la preocupación de la embajadora de Zimbabue y me la cubre el hecho que dije en un inicio de que esa preocupación estará reflejada en las actas de la reunión. Por tanto, ya de por sí da una orientación a la Secretaría sobre sobre tomar en cuenta los debates que hemos tenido aquí. Si bien renunciamos de ello en el texto de la decisión, sí lo dejamos en el informe oral de la presidenta o en las actas resumidas, que ya da una orientación a la Secretaría sobre los debates que han tenido lugar hoy en relación a este tema. Ese es el entendido en el que hemos tenido la flexibilidad con el texto propuesto, siempre que quede cubierto en ese otro documento también del comité. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Rosler, please.
Thank you very much. I can confirm that we have taken good note, and we certainly facilitate dialogue between the advisory bodies and the Secretariat. We will not wait until the next session. I would like to just be very clear about the point, adding an agenda item. That means to the agenda of the next session, or you want to have it under item 6? You want to create a new item? Yeah, this is item 5B. You want to create a new item, or is it under item 5B that we report back on this dialogue? Thank you.
Okay. I give the floor now to Cuba, and then to our reporter to finalize the text, please. Thank you.
Sí, gracias, señora presidenta. Me disculpo por intervenir nuevamente, pero creo que teniendo en cuenta la carga de trabajo que tiene el comité, podríamos tenerlo para el próximo año, y así la Secretaría puede llegar con una información más detallada y en mejores condiciones para poder tener un debate profundo y enjundioso. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. Now I give the reporter.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So as for paragraph 5, the way it would stand right now is affirms the value of strengthening and improving dialogue between the advisory bodies and the states parties, and proposes that a point be added to the agenda on this issue at the next session of the World Heritage Committee. Madam Chairperson, if I may request through you, just to clarify, as it has been said by the Director of the World Heritage Center, if this should be a separate point on the agenda or if this should be included in this report, just to be exactly sure of how we should word this.
Cuba, please.
Preferiríamos fuera un punto aparte, con una documentación diferente al informe que nos presenta los órganos de evaluación, como hemos hecho en otros órganos de la propia UNESCO. Es una demanda de un nuevo punto y por tanto tendría un punto independiente en el orden del día. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam. In that case, with the agreement of the distinguished delegate of Cuba, I should like to make a suggestion that the second part of the paragraph could read, and proposes that this issue be discussed at the next session of the World Heritage Committee. So I would like to ask whether the distinguished delegate of Cuba would agree with this terminology or would prefer the other one.
Please, Cuba.
Sí, gracias. Le agradezco a la colega la sugerencia, pero no entiendo muy bien la razón. O sea, me parece que es más claro cuando ponemos un punto dentro del orden del día, nos da la medida que vamos a tener un tema dentro del orden con un documento asociado que nos permitirá el debate con una decisión. De otra manera pareciera muy general, que lo podemos ver lo mismo en un debate temático que en el debate de este punto. O sea, cuando me hacía la pregunta me parecía que era pertinente tenerlo como un punto independiente, pero lo dejo a la consideración de la Secretaría. Gracias.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and I beg your indulgence for these few moments. In that case, I will withdraw my proposal, and then we can stick with the original proposal of the distinguished delegate of Cuba. It's just that we are also going to have an item on our agenda that will actually deal with the agenda of the next session. And in that case, yes, I wanted to ask the Secretariat to strike out the two other proposals as to avoid confusion. And I would like to make one slight modification just in paragraph 4. As now paragraph 4 is not the final paragraph, I would suggest that it starts with further takes note, if that's agreeable. Thank you. Okay. And now I will proceed to read out all the modified paragraphs. If we could just scroll up a little bit, thank you. So, new paragraph 3 will read, also takes note with appreciation of the paper on the evaluations of World Heritage nominations related to sites associated with memories of recent conflicts, developed by ICOMOS, and encourages ICOMOS to further improve this paper by broadening the participation of experts in this new thematic area, including from the African region. Paragraph 4 would start with further takes note of the progress and so on. New paragraph 5 will read, affirms the value of strengthening and improving dialogue between the advisory bodies and the states parties, and proposes a point be added to the agenda on this issue at the next session of the World Heritage Committee. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. I think, you do you agree about this, the final text? Yes? Okay. So, I therefore declare draft decision 42-5B adopted. Now we move to item 6. So we will now move to the item 6 of our agenda, following up to the World Heritage capacity building strategy and progress report on the World Heritage related category 2 centers. The relevant work document is document 6, considering their close links. These two reports are presented together with the same document. I would like now to invite Mrs. Roessler to briefly present the document.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. This is a joint presentation by the World Heritage Center and ICCROM, as the document is in 2 parts. And I think Mr. Joe King will present the first part. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. It's my pleasure to present to you item 6 on the implementation of the World Heritage Capacity Building Strategy. As many of you know, the World Heritage Capacity Building Strategy was approved by the World Heritage Committee in 2001. It is aimed at providing an overarching framework to capacity building based on the needs at the international, regional, and national levels. The strategy was developed with 3 target audiences in mind: practitioners, institutions, and communities and networks. It aims at strengthening knowledge, abilities, skills, and behaviors, improving institutional structures and processes, and introducing a more dynamic relationship between the heritage and its context. The strategy aims at multiple capacity building actors. That is, it is not just aimed at the advisory bodies to implement the strategy, but it is implemented by the advisory bodies, by the World Heritage Center, by states parties, and by other capacity building actors and institutions such as the Category 2 centers. Next slide, please. In showing this slide, I want to call attention to the contributions of the Swiss government to the development of the World Heritage Capacity Building Strategy, and both to the Swiss government and the government of Norway for their support in implementation of capacity building activities. As my Director General already said during item 5B, we would be pleased to discuss additional support from like-minded state parties in the future for capacity building needs. Now, you have already had a report by the World Heritage Center on the significant capacity building activities that have been carried out this year by the Center in all of the regions of the world. Next slide, please. At the level of the advisory bodies, the main program in place at this moment for the implementation of the capacity building strategy is the World Heritage Leadership Program. Now, as already has been explained, the leadership program is a partnership of ICCROM and IUCN in collaboration with the World Heritage Center, and actually I'm going to be embarrassed to admit that I left ICOMOS out of this, but it should also be there. Also ICOMOS, with the support of the Norwegian Ministry of Climate and the Environment. The World Heritage Leadership Program has 5 key modules, let's say, of implementation. The first is effective management of culture, nature, and communities. The second is encouraging resilience. The third is dealing with the issue of impact assessment. And then there are 2 modules dealing with the development of learning sites and the idea of creating a leadership network around the world. Next slide, please. Now, there have been several activities that have been implemented over the course of the last year. 2 courses in particular took place, one in Norway in the World Heritage Property of Røros, which was a course on culture, nature, and communities, and a second one on people-centered approaches, which took place in various parts of Italy. In addition to that, there were also several meetings that took place as part of the ICOMOS General Assembly in Delhi in December of 2017. Those 2 meetings were on the combination of the resource manuals on cultural and natural heritage, and there was a second meeting on the issue of governance. We thank ICOMOS very much for their hosting of these meetings as part of the General Assembly that took place in Delhi. And I'd like to point out that although I forgot ICOMOS in the last slide, I did include them here in this slide. Next slide, please. Other activities of the World Heritage Leadership Program which are ongoing include a scoping study on the issue of climate change and its effect on heritage and World Heritage in particular. We have also carried out a workshop just this past month on the issue of resilience in Rome. And we have also taken part in the annual conference of the International Association for Impact Assessment in order to create better contacts with that institution in order to ensure that heritage issues can be better implemented or integrated, integrated into impact assessment methodologies and practices. Finally, for World Heritage Leadership, I would like to call attention to the World Heritage Site Managers Forum, which has been going on in the week prior to this particular committee meeting in 2018. This Site Managers Forum was a partnership with the government of Bahrain, and in addition, there were contributions from the World Heritage Leadership Program and also the government of Poland as the host of last year's committee meeting. Next slide, please. In addition to the World Heritage Leadership Program, of course, there are many capacity building activities that are going on in many parts of the world, and there are some key themes that are coming out of the capacity building area. In addition to World Heritage Leadership, the topic of linking culture and nature is becoming a more important topic in many areas of the world. And this can be seen in 2 activities that I highlight in this slide. One, a workshop on nature-culture linkages at sacred sites, which took place in September 2017 at Tsukuba University in Japan, and also a course that took place in China on management and monitoring of agricultural landscapes, which took place at the Hani Rice Terraces in China in August of 2017. Next slide, please. In the area of disaster risk management, there have been a number of courses, one in Kyoto, which is an annual course with Ritsumeikan University in partnership with ICCROM and ICOMOS, and in this year also in collaboration with ICOM, the International Council on Museums, which took place in Kyoto in 2017. And it added an interesting aspect. It looked at World Heritage sites, but it also added the issue of objects and museums in those World Heritage sites. There was also a training workshop on post-disaster recovery for living archaeological heritage in Bagan in Myanmar, which is on the tentative list of Myanmar. Next slide, please. ICCROM also continues its work on conservation, training, and capacity building, specifically in relation to physical conservation of the built heritage. And we now have 3 different courses on wood conservation. The first time in September of 2017, we carried out a course at Kizhi Pogost in Russia. We carry out a regional course on wood conservation in Nara, Japan, and of course, every 2 years we have our traditional wood conservation course in Oslo, Norway, which is actually going on right now as we speak. It is not concluded quite yet, so that is actually still ongoing. We also had a stone course this past March and April in Mexico City and at the archaeological site of Chicana in Mexico. Next slide, please. In terms of presenting opportunities for capacity building, ICCROM also sees that as one of its key roles within the convention, and it's possible on the ICCROM website in our classified section to have a good range of the various courses, meetings, seminars, and workshops that can be found around the world for people to apply for and to take part in. Next slide, please. But in addition to the activities at the international level, there are also a number of activities that are going on in capacity building at the regional level. Next slide. You've heard already actually from the World Heritage Center about a number of the activities that have taken place. In the Asia and Pacific region, for example, there have been training workshops in Bhutan, in China, in India, and in Pakistan to reinforce capacities both for nominations and for sustainable management of the cultural heritage. Next slide. In Latin America, again, it has already been reported that there are work with the Category 2 centers there, but it is worth repeating again that a sub-regional meeting took place in Mexico to develop an action plan for Mexico and Central America, and we think that that's a significant development for that sub-region for World Heritage. Next slide, please. In Europe, following on the issue of impact assessments, there has been discussion of carrying out a series of regional and sub-regional programs specifically for ensuring that heritage impact assessments can take place when there are developments being proposed in and around World Heritage sites which might have an impact on the outstanding universal value of those properties. Next slide, please. In Africa, it's already been mentioned again, there's been a great collaboration with the African World Heritage Fund, and there have been workshops on disaster risk management, and I would really like to call attention to the World Heritage Nomination Support Program, which is carried out by the African World Heritage Fund. This is really a model which I would argue that other regions of the world should look at in terms of supporting states parties in the nomination process and ensuring that there is an ongoing dialogue within the region to look at nominations as they are progressing and to see how that progress is going on and how the states parties themselves can work with each other and learn from each other and eventually come out with positive nominations. There is also in this region, and this was mentioned by the ambassador to Zimbabwe, a World Heritage, a workshop on World Heritage and educational institutions in Africa, which took place in Zimbabwe, not too far away from the Great Zimbabwe World Heritage Site, which is pictured in this slide. Next slide, please. And finally, in the Arab States region, there have been multiple capacity building activities carried out, both here in Bahrain with the ARC-WH Category 2 Center, and also with ICCROM's Regional Center in Sharjah. I just highlight two in this slide, which were with ARC-WH. There are a series of workshops that have taken place and are being planned to look at the Enhancing Our Heritage Toolkit. So it's looking at evaluating management at World Heritage properties. And I would point out from the Sharjah office, from ICCROM's Sharjah office, an activity that took place in February this year, which was an Arab Cultural Heritage Forum. Next slide. Your document 6, contains actually a large number of other capacity building activities which have taken place over the course of the last year. There are too many for me to actually present to you here, so I will just simply refer you to document 6 if you would like more information on the large number of capacity building activities that have been going on around the world. Next slide, please. And finally, I would actually like to apologize to you, the committee, because last year I was able to present to you a series of facts and figures about numbers of participants, places around the world where capacity building activities were taking place. This year, due to a technical issue, I was unable to actually collect that data. We set up a survey form, but unfortunately we were not able to actually implement it and collect the data that we needed. So what I can do now is I can promise you that for next year's presentation on item 6, we will fix that technical glitch, and I will be able to present to you next year a sort of a more synthetic, factual presentation of capacity building around the world. What I can say, however, is that ICCROM, through its Tracking Trends program, has also been carrying out a series of let's call them research projects to look at training and capacity building around the world. This particular map that's on the screen right now shows just within Europe all of the training programs, or sorry, all the university programs that have conservation as their main target are the red programs, and that have conservation as one of their elements in the blue programs. So so ICCROM is continuing to try to gather more information on capacity building around the world, both for World Heritage and in the larger framework of capacity building. And hopefully at next year's committee meeting we will be able to present to you a much larger and more complete picture in relation to capacity building around the world. With that, I complete my presentation, and I'd like to turn the floor back over to Madam Roessler for the Category 2 centers.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and thank you very much, Joe. Briefly, I would like to present the report on the progress report on the Category 2 centers. As you all know, we have 9 Category 2 centers related to World Heritage, and agreements have been signed for 7 centers. The Arab Regional Centers here in Bahrain, the Regional Heritage Management Training Center, Lucio Costa in Brazil, the World Heritage Institute of Training Research of the Asia-Pacific region, WITRAP, in China, the Center on World Heritage Natural Management and Training for Asia and Pacific in India, the International Research Center on Economics of Culture and World Heritage Studies in Italy, and the Regional World Heritage Institute in Zacatecas, Mexico, and the African World Heritage Fund. And for the African World Heritage Fund, the agreement was entered into force in June 2018. Now, agreements have not been signed for 2 centers, the International Center for Rock Art and the World Heritage Convention in Spain, which was approved by a General Conference in 2011, and the Regional Center for Human Evolution, Adaptations and Dispersals in Southeast Asia in Indonesia, which was approved by UNESCO's General Conference in 2017. Now, in line with the integrated comprehensive strategy for Category 2 institutes and centers, external evaluations have been undertaken for the ArcWH and the Lucio Costa in Brazil. And as you can see here on the screen, the renewal agreement for ArcWH was signed in April 2018. You can see Sheikha May here, and the renewal for the Lucio Costa here with the Minister for Culture from Brazil together with our Director General. Now, 2 important information. The 6th annual coordination meeting of the World Heritage Center related Category 2 institutes and centers took place in Robben Island in South Africa in February, and this meeting reflected on international cooperation and implementation of recommendations made previously to reinforce cooperation among the centers and foster also partnerships with universities, UNESCO chairs and other stakeholders, and reflected on the way to encompass sustainable development goals into all the activities. Then the UNESCO culture sector organized the 2nd coordination meeting with C2Cs and UNITWIN UNESCO chairs related to culture in November 2017 with the overarching theme on culture as an enabler of sustainable development, and the meeting launched an online forum of UNESCO chairs and C2Cs as a tool to support effective communication, information sharing and research. And 2 thematic workshops were held in conjunction with this event. One on advocacy and communication for enhancing culture's role in the 2030 agenda and the new urban agenda, and one on the historic urban landscape. And I think this is in line with some of the discussions you had. Azerbaijan before mentioned it. We need more tools, and we try to do it also with our Category 2 centers. So thank you very much to all centers, all of those who are in the room here, and thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Rossler. And now we are in front of the draft decision 42.6. Do you have any comments? Brazil, please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. I would like to thank very much for the presentation made by Mr. Joseph King, and also by the additional information provided by Madam Mechtil Rossler. Thank you very much. Capacity building is undoubtedly has a pivotal role to play in the implementation of the overall principles of the 1972 Convention, especially in respect to ensuring adequate development and implementation of conservation and preservation policies. Having this in mind, I'm very glad to refer to the signature last June, already mentioned by Madam Rossler, by the Brazilian Minister of Culture and UNESCO Director General, of the renewal of the agreement for the Regional Heritage Management Training Center, Lúcio Costa. On that occasion, our Minister of Culture reaffirmed Brazil's commitment to continue promoting international cooperation in its South-South dimension, focused on the management and preservation of natural and cultural sites. During the first phase of the Lúcio Costa Center as a Category 2 center, it worked closely with the national heritage institutions of many countries in Latin America, and also with Portuguese-speaking countries of Africa. In this first phase, more than 200 stakeholders and specialists and related workers were trained, and we are very happy that we could provide this assistance to other countries. Our National Historic and Artistic Heritage Institute, IFAN, present to this meeting, is organizing next August a meeting with UNESCO, the advisory bodies, especially ICCROM, and the national heritage authorities of the center's member countries, in order to draw an action plan of capacity building for the next biennium. And based on our experience, so we are positive that the enormous potential of Category 2 centers will continue to be strengthened, and thus contributing to the implementation, to the appropriate implementation of the 1972 Convention. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And now I give the floor to Norway.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Norway would like to thank ICCROM and IUCN for the fruitful cooperation under the World Heritage Leadership Program. In our opinion, capacity building is decisive to implement the aim of the Convention. The 6-year agreement was signed in 2016, and 2 years later, we experienced that the program is improving the nature culture conservation practice. Several courses have already been conducted and experts are trained. Switzerland has contributed significantly to the project under the program, and we would hope that other state parties would find it interesting to join forces. We also recognize other activities under the capacity building strategy worldwide. We note a brief report on the status of the Category 2 centers related to World Heritage capacity. Norway would like to thank the centers who has contributed to the capacity building strategy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I give the floor to Uganda.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. The delegation of Uganda takes the honor to participate for the first time in this distinguished forum of the World Heritage Committee and joins other delegations in welcoming the presentation on the follow-up to the World Heritage Capacity Building Strategy and progress report on the World Heritage-related Category 2 centers. Madam Chair, the Ugandan delegation is happy to report that ever since the commencement of the World Heritage Leadership Program in 2016, Uganda has effectively embraced this item with emphasis on getting on board the young people in secondary schools to galvanize heritage leadership development. Coordinated by Uganda National Commission for UNESCO with funding support from Paris-based UNESCO Climate Change Project, there is an ongoing rigorous drive across all schools, tertiary institutions, and the youth in Uganda to promote heritage leadership clubs in juxtaposition with the country's lifelong learning initiatives. Once again, the delegation commends the performance on World Heritage Capacity Building Strategy and progress report on the World Heritage-related Category 2 centers. I thank you.
Thank you very much. And now I give the floor to Tanzania.
Thank you very much, Chair. The Tanzania delegation would like to commend the World Heritage Center, the advisory bodies, and the other partners for the efforts and the progress reached so far towards the implementation of the capacity building activities in response to the needs of heritage practitioners, institutions, partners, and the communities at large, both at regional and international levels. Tanzania delegation is satisfied with the diversity of modules that were addressed. These modules including effective management, promotion of culture and education in Africa, risk management and risk preparedness workshops, resilience, impact assessment, learning sites and leadership networks. Tanzania delegation also calls for the exploration of other innovative and relevant technical programs related to actual conservation and evaluations. Tanzania delegation testifies that through these capacity building efforts, Africa was amongst the beneficiaries through a number of workshops of the UNESCO World Heritage through the Category 2 centers that took place in South Africa, Zimbabwe, Cameroon, just to mention a few. Tanzania acknowledges these efforts and encourages the World Heritage Center and advisory bodies to continue with these efforts by also involving some of the universities. Tanzania would also suggest, and it thinks it is maybe high time that an action should be initiated to audit and to assess the impact and the outcome of this capacity program. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Now I give the floor to Azerbaijan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We would like to also commend the report on the capacity building strategy. We are of the strong view that the capacity building activities have crucial importance to assist state parties in better implementation of 1972 Convention. In this regard, we think that the World Heritage Capacity Building Strategy, which was approved by the committee in 2011, is an important reference point, and we commend the progress made in this regard. Based on our experience of my country in the capacity building activities in the framework of 2003 Convention on Intangible Cultural Heritage, we would like to share with you some lessons learned and some elements that we believe needs to be taken into account. First is the sustainability of this, the capacity building, which means that the training of trainees approach should be applied, and more those who are involved in a training will be taken on board. Second, the involvement of all stakeholders, from the government, from National Commission, from site managers, and civil society needs to be also addressed by this capacity building. A very important point is the focus. The focus, we believe, should be more preservation and conservation of sites rather than awareness raising or something like this. Another very important point is the communication strategy. For the capacity building activities, accompanied with the proper communication strategy will deliver also the visibility, necessary visibility to this process, and will attract in its turn more funding from the donor countries. Also, we think that the network of UNESCO's Category 2 centers are a valuable asset, and we are happy to acknowledge that this cooperation with World Heritage related Category 2 centers is functioning well. We want to also bring on board the national committees of the World Heritage to this capacity building strategy. Again, we want to emphasize the role of World Heritage Center and advisory bodies in this mission, as we already mentioned in our previous intervention. We believe that their expertise and guidance are crucial in assisting state parties. Only through capacity building we can achieve our mission, both in balanced World Heritage list and preservation and conservation of World Heritage sites. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I give the floor to Bahrain.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. I would like to just here mention, as the Kingdom of Bahrain is hosting the Arab Regional Center for World Heritage, which was established by the World Heritage Center, UNESCO, and hosted by the government of Bahrain. I would like to say that it has been quite an interesting and quite successful experiment so far. But we have just had happily the extension of, for the second 6 years of work as the Category 2 center in the Arab region. It is important to say that there are a strong relationship and partnership between the Arab Regional Center in Bahrain and also with the advisory body. And that brings me to the point, or the amendment that was discussed and hopefully approved a few minutes ago, and to say that having this relationship and partnership with the advisory bodies and with the problems that we are facing in the region, this could be a good example to alleviate some of the problems that we have been discussing, and state parties in the room have been mentioning and requesting some methods to alleviate the problems. I think regional centers will be able to help in this regard, and maybe, if you like, help what is seen by many, especially in our region, as the North North-South divide, which has been discussed for generations now. I think it is very important for alleviating misunderstandings and enhancing the relationship and the dialogue that has been proposed and suggested lately between regional state parties and advisory bodies. I believe that regional centers, Category 2 centers, will be a good facilitator. Having said that, I would like also to point out that the Arab Regional Center is proud to say that we have similar concentration and focus on both components of the 1972 Convention for the Protection of World Heritage, as we have exactly two similar units within the Arab Regional Center, one for the preservation and protection of natural heritage in partnership with IUCN, and also the Cultural Heritage Center heritage component. And I think I've taken my time enough, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now I give the floor to Zimbabwe.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to add our voice to thanking the advisory bodies for the report on capacity building, as well as the additional information that was provided by the director of the World Heritage Center. In Africa, we have a very active Category 2 center, which is the Africa World Heritage Fund, which my colleagues have talked about. And I would like to commend their work and also to commend the advisory bodies for the increasing collaboration that we are seeing between them and the Africa World Heritage Fund. We are grateful to the government of South Africa for hosting and supporting the Africa World Heritage Fund, as well as to other governments that are providing support to the fund. I would like to support and to repeat what the delegate of Azerbaijan has said in terms of capacity building should also create a balance, but stress more conservation and protection, particularly in our region where we have a large number of sites in danger or sites that are endangered to be in danger. So we would like to make sure that we increase our capacity in conservation and protection as well as in management. So these are some of the areas that I hope will increasingly come into play. We are also very grateful for the work that is being done with learning institutions, with universities in English-speaking and the Francophone areas, which in fact entrenches capacity building from the university level upwards. We recognize that some of our experts are now sort of nearing retirement and need to be renewed. And this particular program is of great importance to the Africa region. So we thank the center as well as the countries that gave the extra budgetary support for this process. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now, at the end, I give the floor to the NGO representative, and please be brief. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Indigenous peoples around the world can be strongly and directly affected, both positively and negatively, by policies and actions undertaken in the name of World Heritage Sites. At the same time, indigenous peoples can and do make substantial contributions to the conservation of World Heritage Sites. And I forgot to say that I'm speaking on behalf of the International Indigenous Peoples Forum on World Heritage. We have noticed, however, that the World Heritage Capacity Building Strategy does not make any reference to indigenous peoples, and we therefore strongly recommend that a committee request the center and the advisory bodies and recommend to member states to include specific action on capacity building with indigenous peoples in their capacity building programs and activities. The International Indigenous Peoples Forum on World Heritage is in the process of developing a comprehensive strategy for capacity strengthening, and we would greatly welcome the joint development of activities as well as potential joint resource mobilization. A concrete proposal in that regard could be the establishment of a voluntary fund for indigenous peoples to facilitate our effective participation in World Heritage processes, be it during sessions of the committee as well as other processes such as the identification, nomination, monitoring, and management of sites. The World Heritage Convention can in this way make meaningful contributions to the objectives to be achieved as referred to in the UN Sustainable Development Goals, the UNESCO Policy on Indigenous Peoples, the World Heritage Policy on Sustainable Development, all of which embrace the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. This declaration, adopted by the UN General Assembly under your distinguished presidency, Madam Chair, as well as the UN General Assembly resolution of 2014, call on all UN specialized agencies and organizations to contribute to the achievement of the objectives of this declaration. Finally, Madam Chair, just a reminder that you are all invited to the side event which occurs in half hour from now in room Hawar. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. And I now give the floor to China.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and China warmly welcomes the outcomes of the progress report of the World Heritage-related Category 2 centers, and also attaches high importance to the follow-up to the World Heritage Capacity Building Strategy. According to the previous resolutions adopted by the UNESCO General Conference, 2 Category 2 centers related to the World Heritage have been established in China and have always played an active role in enhancing capacity building in Asian Pacific and African regions, which are WITRAP and HIST. And both centers have always organized various activities related to World Heritage together with state parties and World Heritage Center. Notably, that China has hosted 2 sessions of the Huangshan Forum on the Youth Heritage. So China is engaged continuously to make its contributions to the enhancement of the capacity building of the World Heritage. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. And now I give the reporter the floor to see if we have any amendments or any proposed amendments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. We have received no amendments to this draft decision. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So I therefore declare. Now we have an announcement, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The announcements for the events this evening, as it was just mentioned by the Indigenous Peoples Forum on World Heritage, they will have a side event at 18:30. Can we have the slides on the screens? At 18:30 in Hawar room. 18:30, a side event called Emerging Restoration Practices in the Gulf, organized by the Kuwait National Council for Culture, Art and Letters. We should have started actually at 6 o'clock in the Dilmun room. I suppose it will be slightly delayed and it will start immediately after the end of the session. One more side event at 18:10 in the Manama room in the AB space, the World's Heritage Sustainable Development Policy and what it means for states parties. Sustainable development has been mentioned many, many times by many delegates. I suppose that many of you will be interested in this event. One more announcement, which I have just received. Il s'agit d'une réunion du groupe arabe aujourd'hui, le 25 juin, à 19h, 7 o'clock, à la salle Tilos. And one final, can we go to the next slide? One final announcement, which does not concern an event taking place tonight. Look at the screens, look at the Night for Virunga. This is a very, very special side event organized by the World Heritage Center together with the Bahrain Authority for Culture and Antiquities in consultation with the Institute for the National Parks of the Congo, and it's a special evening that is dedicated to the fallen rangers of the Virunga National Park. We shall have a benefit concert and a fundraising event on Wednesday, 27 of June, and you are all invited to donate and to get your gold or silver pass. Where you can find those, they are at the entrance. We have a stand at the entrance. We hope that you'll be numerous to support this fundraising event, this real effort of a modest fundraising event, but a fundraising event that can change lives. So we hope you'll be there. This is a real promotion that we are making of an event which has a very noble purpose, which concerns human lives, and which concerns commitment to world heritage. So our desk, you can always come to us and ask us where to find more information, and there is a desk close to the entrance just after the registration area. We shall provide further information, and you have also received, all of you, an email message in your email box with which you have registered for this committee. Thank you very much, and we hope you'll be numerous. We hope that we shall really be able together, as the individuals who attend this committee, to help a noble cause. Thank you very much, and have a nice evening.
Thank you very much. We come to the end for our meeting today. We'll come tomorrow. We'll meet tomorrow 10 o'clock here. And for the Bureau members, we will meet 9:30 at the Bureau. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.